What is up, everybody? My name is Ahmad and today I'm going to be comparing characters from the play Hamlet by William Shakespeare and characters from the book One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey to several different paintings done by various artists. So, a lot of these paintings I just found online, so I actually don't really have the names of the artists. But yeah. And today I'll be looking into five characters and how their dispositions relate to these paintings and kind of like the message that the paintings are portraying that relate to these characters. So the five characters that I'm going to be examining are Hamlet. He's the first one, and he's the main role of the play Hamlet, obviously. Ophelia, who is Hamlet's girlfriend and son of the king's aide Polonius. Gertrude, who is the mother of Hamlet and the wife of King Claudius and the wife of the late King Hamlet Sr. And for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, I'm going to be talking about characters Nurse Ratched, who is the woman who ran the psychiatric ward in the novel. And finally, I will be speaking about McMurphy, who is the protagonist of the novel. So first off, we have Hamlet. Hamlet is melancholy, bitter, and cynical character. Definitely, he's full of hatred for his uncle's scheming, and he has disgust for his mother's sexuality and her selfish desires. He studied at the University of Wittenberg. He's educated. He's often indecisive and hesitant, but at other times he's prone to rash and impulsive acts. So this was displayed several times throughout the play when it came to Hamlet avenging his father by killing Claudius, and ultimately always failing due to his hesitancy and like never really being sure about how like what he wanted to do, how he was going to go about it, and stuff like that. So an example of this would be when he failed to kill Claudius in the church despite having the perfect opportunity to do so. An example of him being irrational was when he killed Polonius as soon as he saw him move into the drapes of his mother's bedroom instead of killing Claudius because he was so, ready to end Claudius and move on from the fact that he had to avenge his father. This was like a really interesting point as well because Hamlet seemed like really emotional throughout the play, especially with the passing of his father. And after he killed Polonius, he seemed to not really care much, and he said that it was all in God's will, and that it had to happen. Instead of feeling remorse or any empathy for his daughter Ophelia and the fact that she had now lost her father, which is something Hamlet that he could relate to, obviously, and he went through a lot of pain due to that. So I chose this painting right here because I felt like it had a lot of symbolism pertaining to Hamlet and his journey in the play. So you see a man um, in the center, elevated from the other humans, which kind of symbolizes Hamlet's status as a prince, and being the son of the late king of Denmark. So the man also has a halo over his head, and I feel like this could represent how the general public sees Hamlet as a desirable, respectable, well-educated man without any negative aspects of his personality really like attached to him. So like no one who is like people who aren't close to Hamlet and don't know him personally wouldn't look at him and think that there's something wrong with him. Um, so in this painting, there are a few men surrounding him, and they all look visibly distressed for some reason. And I feel like this could represent the constant parts of his life that are causing him stress and agony. So one of the four men could represent the pain of his father's passing. Another could represent the hate that he has for his mother and because she remarried his uncle and how that ruined their relationship. Another could represent the issues he has with his girlfriend Ophelia throughout the play. And the last one could represent possibly the constant pressure to avenge his father throughout the play. So the last aspect I want to observe are the two angels on the right and left of the man. One of them has black wings and one of them has white wings, and this I feel like could represent the idea of the angel and devil analogy. Hamlet he's constantly struggling with what he wants to do about killing Claudius throughout the play, and I believe that this is because of how he feels within his conscience. And how like killing another human being even though he is avenging his father is still a sin, and that he feels like he needs to do the right thing, but at the same time he doesn't want to go to hell and he doesn't want to um, you know anger God or go against God's will. And I feel like the angel and the devil is a good example, or a good kind of visual of that, because he's constantly like going back and forth between like his ethics and how he should go about all the situations that he comes across to be a good person, but at the same time he wants to obviously avenge his father, and he wants to move past all the negative things that Claudius becoming king has inflicted on him. So now moving on to the next character, I'm going to be talking about Ophelia. So we know Ophelia as the daughter of Polonius. She's a beautiful young woman with whom Hamlet has been in love with, and later on in the play we see that they start to have a few relationship issues and such. So she's kind of examined as like a sweet and innocent girl throughout the play. She obeys her father and her brother Laertes. She takes their advice very seriously most of the time. She's dependent on men to tell her how to behave. She gives into Polonius' schemes to spy on Hamlet as well, which was a very significant part of the play. And even in her lapse into madness and death, and how she kind of went insane as a result of her father's death, she still remained like kind of beautiful in a way. She didn't let her mental destruction allow her to distract from her beauty. So I chose this painting by Frida Kahlo to compare to Ophelia and her journey throughout the book. So I thought it was appropriate to use one of Frida Kahlo's paintings because, similar to Ophelia, Frida also lost her father and progressively got ill mentally and physically after his passing until she died only 12 years later. So I thought that was a kind of interesting tidbit to add. So I chose this painting because it's a good analogy of the two sides that we saw of Ophelia in the play. So on the right, you have a beautiful woman in a red dress in what seems to be in optimal physical health and awareness, like how Ophelia was before her father passed. And on the left side, you see a woman on a hospital bed with scars and is clearly hurt. We don't know if she's dead or not, and this is significant because when Ophelia began to go insane, it wasn't known if she was going to get past the emotional trauma that she was going through or if she was going to die. So the aspect of uncertainty is there in the painting as well, which I thought was very significant. So the woman on the right is holding a flag, and it says in Spanish, Árbol de la Esperanza mantente firme. I probably butchered that, but basically it means the tree of hope will stay firm. So I thought this could represent the fact that when Ophelia began to go insane, it was in such an angelic way to the point where you'd think that she wasn't suffering from trauma, rather she was suffering from a mental illness and did not know how to face the fact that her father was dead. And the fact that aspect of her personality is like a prime example of how hopeful she is, because it's to a level where she cannot even process the worst form of emotional pain. So she's definitely like a very hopeful person subconsciously. So now the next character that I will be talking about is Gertrude. So Gertrude is the Queen of Denmark. She's Hamlet's mother. And in the play, she's recently married to Claudius. So Gertrude loves Hamlet deeply, but she is definitely like a shallow and weak person. She seeks affection and status more urgently than satisfying her own morals and ethics, or being truthful to her son and to her late husband by remarrying his brother. So I chose this biblical painting of Moses' mother, and she's releasing him into the Nile River. So in the painting, the woman is handing the child to a woman who will set the carriage on the course of the river, and she has two women behind her as well. So the woman wearing the silk white dress, who's giving away the child, is a representation of Gertrude, and the baby is her lone son, Hamlet. So Gertrude has deep emotional love for her son, and Hamlet loves her too. There's no denying that. However, after the passing of Hamlet Sr., Gertrude quickly moved on to her brother-in-law Claudius in order to satisfy her sexual and emotional needs that only a lover can fulfill, and to maintain her status as Queen of Denmark as well. So the woman that is in the water that is taking the baby represents Gertrude's personal desires and fantasies, and the fact that she's handing the child to her as is a representation of how Gertrude surrendered her relationship with her son to her selfish needs. So the woman taking the child is wearing a purple headscarf and a pink dress with gold accents. So I believe that the pink and the purple are representations of lust and love, because those colors are associated with that kind of thing, which is a part of how Gertrude's her selfish desires, and how the woman like wearing like the pink dress is like like an embodiment of all the things that Gertrude like associates with, but like she knows she should not. Like she knows that she probably, like, I'm sure that she's aware that she shouldn't have married her brother-in-law so quickly just to satisfy her own needs, but she did anyways because she likes to give in to her own desires more than doing what's right. So the gold accents represent her social economical status and how she would like to maintain that as queen. So standing behind her are two women, one wearing blue and the other is wearing pink, which is on the opposite side of the spectrum of one another. So this is significant because these two women represent the angel and the devil idea, as I mentioned in the Hamlet painting as well. So they're standing behind her, which kind of further shows the guardian angel concept. And the woman in pink, I believe, represents the devil, and the woman in blue is the angel. So the reason for that is because historically the colors, red, orange, pink, have been associated with things like fire, violence, chaos. Like that's just like a known. Whereas blue is clear representations of water, sanity, peace, and yeah. So which are similar to like what an angel and a devil represent. So these are the two women are the battle that Gertrude has between her morals and her desires. And the reason for the woman in pink being more prominent and forward is because Gertrude gave in to her desires throughout the play rather than listening to the angel on her shoulder, and being there for her son in his time of need. Okay, so now I'm going to be talking about Nurse Ratched from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So, Nurse Ratched, she's known for desiring order and she wants complete power, so she manipulates her patients and the staff to fulfill her desires. So, as a head nurse and as a woman with many connections, both inside and outside of the hospital, she is able to maneuver things so that most situations fit her expectations. So if she needs to, she uses the force of her hatred to get things done. So even though she smiles a lot and she talks sweetly, she's definitely not a kind or charming person at all. She is, however, a woman with a strong will, and she almost has like a fetish for control. So she pursues power with intensity and is a very successful at getting people to do what she wants. So I chose this painting because I feel it is very, very representative of Ratched's raw personality and disposition behind the shell that she hides behind. So in the beginning of the novel, she was compared to a combine machine, which is large and powerful, and this painting is a good personification of what the combine represents. The large person in the dark setting is a good visual of the vicious part of Ratchet's personality that is visually repressed and is not really seen to the public. The long hair of the person is the effeminate touch that kind of brings a figure close to Ratchet's physical appearance. So the large woman is also consuming a smaller person, which I thought was very significant because it displays the different levels of power with regards to the men at the ward and her power as the head nurse. So eating the human is symbolic of the food chain because it is common knowledge that human beings are at the top of the food chain in comparison to all animals, but in the food chain of the psych ward, Nurse Ratched is at the top because she is the most powerful, and the figure eating a smaller person is representative of her mental leverage and advantages that she has as the one who keeps order and the one who makes sure that all the men are in line, etc., etc. Finally, I'm going to be talking about the character McMurphy from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He's the protagonist. He's a confident, uh, dirty, sexual, big and loud kind of character. It's an obvious clash with the character of Chief Brondon and Nurse Ratched, because they're both a lot more repressed emotionally than he is. So he's loud. He laughs a lot, which actually stuns the other patients because they've grown so accustomed to not really showing like any emotion in the ward. So throughout like his whole like introduction period, like not a single voice or even character kind of rises to the level of like how dynamic he is. So he represents sexuality, freedom, and self determination for sure. So these are characteristics that definitely clash with the, the ward and how oppressed it is of fun and kind of like the lively features. So uh, even though like throughout like Chief Bromden's narration, the novel kind of establishes that McMurphy is not, in fact, crazy, but he's trying to manipulate the system to his advantage in a way. So his belief is that the hospital would be more comfortable than the Pendleton work farm, where he was serving a 6 month sentence. Um, so that kind of like haunts McMurphy, and later he discovers a power that uh, Nurse Ratched wields over him, and how he kind of like made the wrong decision by going there. Um, so basically, like she kind of has the power to like obviously send him to electric shock treatments and keep him committed as long as she likes. And McMurphy's sanity kind of contrasts from the beginning to the end of the book for sure. So with regards to the comparison of his character to a painting, I wanted to focus on McMurphy's relationship with the other men and how that shifted his character from the beginning to the end of the novel. So I chose this painting of these geese flying south in V formation because I feel like it's a good representation of McMurphy's leadership and savior complex for the men that is constantly shown in the book. So even though McMurphy is a traditional, like, man's man and has a lot of selfish characteristics, he also took a more nurturing role in the book and was more of a father figure and symbol of hope for his fellow inmates. So in the painting, McMurphy would be the lead goose for sure because he's directing all the other geese behind him. The fact that the leader goose is directing them to fly south is significant because they're escaping the cold weather to go to a place that is much warmer and away from all the hardships that winter holds. In this analogy, the winter that they're escaping is the pain and the agony that they face on a daily basis as a result of the way that Ratched runs the ward. And the fact that they're flying somewhere nicer, following the direction of McMurphy, or the main goose, is representative of how they feel like they're escaping all their troubles as a result of McMurphy's way of dealing with them and making them feel happy and safe. Also, the fact that when geese fly in V formation and one of them is hurt or needs to stop flying for whatever reason, the leader goose is there to help the injured goose and they help them get back to the group. And I feel like that ties in with how McMurphy built up the damaged confidence and happiness of the men. And even after his death, he left them with his impact, and they were better men because of it. And, they were happy and more confident in the end. So that was my video for comparing 5 characters from Hamlet and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest to 5 different paintings. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share. Check out my last video, The History of Nancy Ajinam. It's one of my favorites. So, yeah, have an awesome day.